now you can come back to that generation of people and say, no, y'all need to know who I am. To be the number one and the entire business of pro wrestling was pretty damn special.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anthony Lonetti Show right here on 98.5 WNUW New Media. And I'm here with the one and the only WWE Hall of Famer, the world's strongest man. It's time for the main event. Mark Henry. Mark, how are you doing, my man? Thank you for being here.
Oh, man, I'm great, man. Like, you're very welcome. It's always good to get on and introduce yourself to a new audience.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you have your new website that's coming out, themarkhenry.com. I got one of the shirts already off of that. If you're interested in looking at that, just go ahead and look up themarkhenry.com. And then also a link will be in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube. Mark, when I started to tell people that this interview was happening, a lot of people immediately mentioned your theme song by 3-6 Mafia. And on the way to campus today here at Newman University, I played the song by 3-6 Mafia. I wanted to ask you, how important is it for a wrestler to have a good theme song? And how did that theme song by 3-6 Mafia come about?
It is super important because that's the representation of you, the first thing that people hear. And, you're surrounded by the senses in pro wrestling. The whole point is to make you feel. Mm-hmm. And, people that can't see, they can hear wrestling to feel. And the people that can't hear, what they see, they feel the vibration through the ground on watching pro wrestling. And we wanted to have an effect that people that couldn't see could feel the music, could hear the music, and the people that could not hear could also feel the music. So I talked to those guys. Jim Johnson asked me what kind of music did I listen to? And I told him I listened to mostly hip hop and R&B, but I listen to classical, blues, and jazz and stuff. But what really makes me get fired up for the gym is hip hop. And I told them who I liked. I grew up with UGK.
Okay.
With Bun B and Pimp and Mahalia Jackson and I didn't really know Pimp all that well, but like I did, because he didn't live on the street that my cousins lived on, but nonetheless, like it was always that type of feel. And around that time, they had won an Oscar. They were hot. I listened to their music. I had bought a bunch of their music before. And, that's kind of the curve that we were on. We were looking for who was hot.
Okay.
And Jim Johnson was able to get a hold of him, and we started talking and liked each other. And, I let him know about my history, like where I came from. And, you listen to the lyrics, most people just hear the knock. And they hear like the chorus, but if you listen to the music, like it tells you about kind of my upbringing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the one SmackDown they did a live version of it too, and that was awesome to listen to. I think like a lot of people, I didn't really because I grew up watching wrestling, obviously, and that's the first time I heard like 3-6 Mafia. And then when I realized like how popular they really were, it's like, wow, like you don't realize it at the time when like I kind of grew up in like that ruthless aggression era phase. So sorry if I'm like like kind of like a youngin at that point. But it's just one of those things where it's like you don't realize the impact that some artists have, and especially with theme music. When I look at Cult of Personality by CM Punk, The Game Motorhead, just like all that stuff. It just shows how powerful that like theme music can really be.
Yeah, people that weren't fans of their music become fans of their music.
Hmm.
And it's not just a few thousand people, it's millions of people.
Yeah.
Think about how many records that they sold just because of the connection with pro wrestling.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And somebody that actually kind of entered the music industry a little bit was The Rock. His song went popular on TikTok and through all out social media a couple of years ago now. And now he's back in pro wrestling and he's a heel. Also, I forgot to mention, I'm a big fan of Busted Open. So I've listened to you, Dave, and Bully talk about The Rock coming back into the WWE as a heel. What do you kind of make of his return right now in 2024?
I think it's great for the wrestling industry. He is a brother of pro wrestling, and not just a brother, but a big brother.
Mhm.
Um, it's good to see him back doing his thing where he originated from, and um, I I knew they had like a little letdown in Hollywood, but the Hollywood is back, and
Mm.
he'll be navigating those waters as well. But Dwayne is just making power moves, like um, from being on the board of TKO to buying his own name and
Mhm.
like this, and um, consolidating the two football programs and making them united and owning and being the lead of that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Like there's so many things that he's done. I mean, his energy drink, Zoa
Mhm.
is buzzing. Like
Yeah.
it's actually good too. I'm not doing a shameless plug because I get that from it. I don't even get free drinks. But nonetheless, I see all of the moves that he's making, and it's about acquiring power and prestige and respect of the world, not just pro wrestling. But it's good
Yeah.
to have pro wrestling in that fold.
Yeah, and like you said, The Rock is in I feel like he's just almost in, like, every industry at this point, and, looking at The Rock entering back into the pro wrestling ring, assuming it's gonna be at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, he's entering in quite a different world even as much as looking back at when he wrestled John Cena 10 years ago. How do you think, the wrestling business has evolved from, the last time Rock was in a ring to now because obviously we have All Elite Wrestling. There's a bigger rise, I feel like, on the independent scene with, you look at talents like I look at Myron Reed and Josh Alexander. These guys are incredible. There's a big buzz in the independent scene. How do you think really the business has evolved right now?
Well, I mean, it's definitely changed. And when you say evolve, um, that you also mean elevate and change in a positive way.
Yeah.
The business has evolved. It has changed and elevated in a positive way. And the Rock, I'm gonna tell you, the one of the main differences, not just that there's other companies out there that are notables, but the fact that they're on television.
Yeah.
They're prime time, mainstream, and regardless of uh, the sizes of the arenas, um, wrestling is still strong in independence,
Hmm.
and they're getting, because of podcasts like this one and social media, the world gets to see it. It's not just like oh, you filled up 500 people at a bingo hall,
Right.
and that's the only people that's going to see it. That's not the way it is now. And I think that The Rock realizes that, and there's a generation of people that don't know who he is. They just know
Yeah.
him from movies.
Yeah.
And now he can come back to that generation of people and say, no, I was somebody in this business, and y'all need to know who I am.
It's kind of similar to Stone Cold 2 years ago when he wrestled Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38. I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't get to see Stone Cold wrestle in his prime or even his last match 20 some odd years ago. So like it's a chance for the new wrestling fans, like the kids growing up now and kids that grew up like 10 years ago that didn't get to see these guys come back, and they're coming back at a high level. And I know there's probably going to be somebody in the comment section that asked this, especially since we're talking about people coming back in the business. When you joined AEW, there was a report that potentially you would be getting back into the ring. Is there any chance of you stepping back into a pro wrestling ring in 2024, or is that kind of in the rearview mirror for you?
I don't think so. I think that my focus is more on elevating the industry from a business standpoint,
Mhm.
and through community involvement and not just the business side, but the philanthropic side.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
what can wrestling give back to the
Mhm.
people? And I've just always thought that way, and I felt like because of the support of the fans, that I wanted to give them as much as we could give them,
Mhm.
and help the communities that they live in. Because there's a lot of people, like my grandmother when I was a little boy, who would spend money they didn't have to go watch wrestling. The light bill was going to come up, and
Wow.
they were going to. I mean, it was a true debate. Can I go watch wrestling or keep the lights on?
Wow.
And that's pro wrestling.
Mhm.
We wanna be able to help those people that feel that way and love the way that we love about pro wrestling.
I love that, man. That's amazing. I always know there's somebody that's gonna be like, "Oh, Mark, when you get back in the ring?" So I figured I'd just address that for you. But going into like your career, obviously, because you're not really looking back into getting into the ring, but looking at the past of it, there's one match in particular I remember of yours, and it's actually a casket match against the Undertaker. Undertaker was my favorite wrestler growing up as a kid. Still is probably my favorite of all time. I'm sure countless kids grew up on Undertaker and his work. Legend, probably my goat of all time. You were originally supposed to break the streak at WrestleMania 22. I listened to a podcast, Bruce Pritchard, Conrad Thompson, something to wrestle with, and they talked about this happening. Were you aware that this was going to be something that could have happened? And you know, just thinking about that, I mean
Yeah, I didn't
a
want it.
huge moment.
I
Really?
didn't want that pressure. I was like, no, 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 thank you. Like, when you do that, it's almost like you take the place of the person, and
Wow.
nobody worked harder than Undertaker. Nobody
Yeah.
was pulled the way that he was pulled, in every direction the way that he was pulled.
Mhm.
And I remember hearing something like that, and I overheard two people saying, "Man, whoever break that streak, boy, the crowd gonna hate them. Like, they gonna get death
Yeah.
threats and shit like that." And I was like, "Oh, sounds good, but sounds bad. I don't want
Yeah.
that smoke."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I look at, we're approaching, I think, 10 years, 2014 when the streak was broken. And, people still hated Brock
Hate on it.
Lesnar. That like throughout his, even like going into like, I would say 2020, like he still had Heyman with him. And they would occasionally still bring up like, he's the one in 21-1. Like that kept going. So I get what you mean with that. Cause I feel like, facing Undertaker at WrestleMania, that's already got to be like so much pressure people can't even understand because you're trying to follow up on those matches. And then if you're going to beat him, I mean, like that has to almost feel like the the weight of the world is on your shoulders almost, you know?
Yeah. And I didn't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. I could definitely see that. We follow that up actually 5 years later, you and Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship, the Hall of Pain, you winning the World Championship. I wanted to ask you about this because this is also, again, such like a legendary moment in your career. What did it mean to you when you got to hold up that championship, cut that promo right afterwards? Because I think a lot of people loved Mark Henry, but they loved you even more because the Hall of Pain was a new point in your career where you were the guy, you know?
And you know what? I enjoyed that. Like, there's very few people that get to be the guy
Mhm.
and to be the number one, and the entire business of pro wrestling was pretty damn special. And also, I meant every word that I said. I had the green light to say whatever I wanted to say,
Mhm.
and because the way that I view wrestling is the way that I view life. There are people that will support you as long as they feel like they getting something out of it, or they have something to do with it, or they can say that, I help inspire this. But if they're not involved and it has nothing to do with them, they hate on it.
Yeah.
They try to sabotage you. They gossip about you. They like, and that's the way I felt about my career. There were people that cheered me, and I love those people, and I appreciate
Mhm.
those people cheering. But I had a lot of retractors. I had a lot of people that felt like I didn't deserve it. There was a lot of people that they booed and hissed and didn't want nothing to do with me. And I wanted to let them know you can't go along for the ride. Like, there's no room on the bandwagon. Like, I did this, and everybody that hated on me, I want you to enjoy eating crow, because that's what you get. And
Mhm.
um, it went over really, really well. It built my brand more than probably the 5 years before combined.
Yeah. And I would say like that is up there as one of your like top career highlights, at least in like your wrestling career. Is there any other moments that you would probably say match that or would be even higher for you in terms of your career?
I mean, just the creating sexual chocolate and
Yeah.
being in the nation and having the education that I got for wrestling, being in the nation with D'Lo and Dwayne and Ron Simmons and Godfather, um, Teddy Long around there and Owen
Mhm.
and guys like I had masters teaching me. And, I'll never be able to repay all those people for what I learned.
Yeah, and I think in a way, it's almost like with you being in AEW, it's almost a way to give back to the business, like giving advice to the up and comers and stuff like that. I wanted to ask you because AEW has been around for about nearly 5 years now. We saw All In 2018, and then AEW really be created in 2019. Jericho signed on, the Elite, Cody, Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. And, what they have brought to the wrestling business, I think, has been incredible. Whatever people say good or bad about the product, it has changed the landscape and it's given other people a chance to kind of experiment with themselves. Like, Dean Ambrose going in AEW, John Moxley. I think almost like he's levels above where he was as Dean Ambrose. So, what do you think AEW really brings to the table as far as the wrestling industry, and how's it really changed the business for you?
I feel like AEW is also the fulcrum point in pro wrestling.
Mhm.
Um, they're the linchpin of, well, I need to make more money because I mean I could go there. And um, if you're a young, unestablished talent, and it's so top heavy at WWE that you can't get a shot in, then you got another place to go and take your shot and get your game up. And New Japan is one of those places, AAA and TNA and Impact and
MLW.
MLW, like all of the GCW is, created a niche for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many other companies that are doing the same. But AEW is the biggest of all of them.
Yeah.
And they are slowly taking chunks out of the evil empire, if you will. And so I feel like that, from the Rebels Star Wars reference,
Mm-hmm.
AEW has done that, and they've established themselves as somebody. And I love the fact that they tailgate like sporting events.
Yeah.
The crowd is, a little wilder,
Mm-hmm.
crazier because they're allowed to be.
Yeah.
It's just fun for pro wrestling, and the community involvement is just awesome. It's good to be one of the founding fathers of the community team and being able to do the stuff in the communities that we go to and serve. So like, I'm really digging the fact that AEW exists.
Yeah, me too. I mean, when you look at like the creative side of things, you have MJF, who, I mean, just phenomenal overall. Like that's the only word I could describe him as, because MJF really is like the real deal. And there's been so many, up and comers we've seen. I mean, Darby Allin is kind of like the next Jeff Hardy almost, and Mick Foley combined, just risking his body. But the body of work that these guys have done has been amazing. And from behind the scenes too, looking at the way that they, basically took care of Brody Lee's family, Luke Harper, after his passing. Tremendous. Like AEW is not only bringing in like that good pro wrestling, that edge, like you kind of talked about with the crowd, but it's also more so, it almost kind of feels like a family, if that makes sense. Obviously, I'm looking at
It is.
outside eyes, but everything they did with Brody after that and during, and the way that they've taken care of a lot of people, like I really do think like, it's just more than a business. It's more than just
Yeah,
wrestling. It kind of has that family vibe to it.
it does. And it is like a family. Uh, I mean, there's good and the bad. There's people
Mhm.
that they don't necessarily care about me being there because they started at ROH and they feel like, no, this is us. We were here before you. We don't need your advice. There's some of those,
Mm.
and I'm comfortable with that. Own it. But like the people that I do inspire and help and work with, uh, they've done really well. And I'm I don't have to beat my chest and pat myself on the back. My
Mhm.
work speaks for itself. My vision speaks for itself. And um, it's going to continue to do that because I'm going to continue to pour everything that I have into it.
And you got something coming up too, your new website that's going to be launching, themarkhenry.com. I know it's launching soon. There's not a particular date on it yet. What can people expect out of your website? Like I said, I got one of the shirts right now. I believe the shirts are still on sale, so pick those up if you can. What could people expect from your new website?
Just a strong entertainment value. That's going to be the Mark Henry show. And it's good to be able to have your own show because you get to call the shots.
Yeah.
um, and set the rules. And I think that it's going to be very entertaining to people. I'm traveling around doing comedy as well.
Okay, yeah.
having a good time, telling stories and telling jokes, and uh, that's always like gonna be one of the things I feel like that hit. And the store, like to be able to buy merch and the informationals on the calendars to know where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be supporting. If I decide to go to Coachella and folks want to meet up at Coachella, they'll know because it'll be on the calendar, you know.
Yeah.
So, not to mention, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot of face-to-face Zooms, meetings, as well as phone calls, motivating fans, talking to fans, and just having a constant dialogue to figure out what's next. Because you can't just get in your head and do that. You got to check the temperature of the wrestling universe, and that's who drives pro wrestling. So the Mark Henry website is going to be something different. Not to mention, I'm also having my own brand called Remarkable.
Okay.
And there'll be athletes that'll be on the Remarkable brand that going to get pushed to do appearances. They're going to get business information, you know, how to buy a house. Like we're going to help wrestlers do stuff that no other site has ever done before. So like we're gonna have a good time with it. People gonna learn from it. You know, it's you always want to make money, but more than anything, I want to establish the fact that I can't take what I know to the grave. I got to start sharing it with people.
Mark, I didn't even know about some of that stuff, and that is honestly like that's great to hear. Like I'm really excited to see this launch take place because it sounds like you got like a really good thing going with the website and this remarkable brand too. So I'm
Yeah,
really excited to see how this
we're
takes
looking
place.
for sponsors. Yeah,
Okay.
for people that see it and they say, "Oh man, I want to advertise on there." We're gonna do spoof commercials.
Okay.
We're gonna have a ball, man. Like all the stuff that I ever wanted to do, I'm gonna get to do because it's mine.
Mark, like I said, thank you so much for coming out today. Well, technically we're virtual, but hopefully we'll be able to meet up maybe WrestleMania weekend. I know I'll probably
Yeah, we got the Busted Open party on Saturday.
Yeah.
Keep your ear to the street. Tune in to Busted Open. We're on 7 days a week. You know, Busted Open 24/7. Come on.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that take place to that party. And Philadelphia, I mean, Wrestling City, it's going to be pretty sick to see WrestleMania and all these events take place, right?
It's going to be wild. What a weekend it's going to be.
Thanks again, Mark. And thank you to everybody who listened into this show right now on The Anthony Lonetti Show in 98.5 WNUW right here at Newman University.